After a short while, Baba called him. A meeting was being held. Sarosh, Faradun, and others were present who knew Esfandiar well. However, they too turned their faces away from him, making him feel uncomfortable and confused. He bowed to Baba, who warmly embraced him and asked, "What is your intention?" Esfandiar answered, "I wish to stay with you." Baba said, "If you want to remain here, then you will not be allowed to step out of the manzil." "I have to make some purchases for my boss," replied Esfandiar, "and besides, I have not brought any clothes." Baba told him, "Give the money for business to your servant and tell him to send your clothes here." Esfandiar did so. With good fortune, although he had come to Bombay to buy, he himself was selling out. From that time on, Esfandiar began staying in the manzil and worked in his uncle's provision store. Although men of different backgrounds, religions, castes, temperaments, beliefs, and ages resided in Manzil-e-Meem, all lived on an amiable basis with one another in the shelter of the master's watchful eye. Everyone learned to perform their assigned duties with discipline, facility, and tact. Ahmed Abbas and Upasni Maharaj's biography in Urdu, closeting themselves in their rooms during the day, allowing no one to enter. They would come out only for meals and games. On July 28th, Meher Baba went to Sakori with Ahmed Abbas to personally research the facts about Upasni Maharaj's life. Baba talked extensively with Maharaj for 4 days and nights, while Ahmed wrote down notes about his life and about Sai Baba of Shirdi. Was Baba talking?
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's right. It was early 20s.
Yeah.
He started in 21.
Wow, he went there and talked to him for 4 days. Meher Baba expressed to Maharaj why he thought this book would be important to both Hindus and Muslims. On their return, Baba inspected everyone's room and surveyed the property, checking that everything was in order. He then inquired of the Mandali if, in his absence, there had been any breaches of his orders, and he took most of them to task for defaulting in one way or another. With Gustaji as leader, Meher Baba sent some of his Mandali to Sakori on August 6th. They arrived the next morning and went to the temple to participate in Maharaj's arti. After lunch, they entered the Sadguru's hut to offer homage. Maharaj discoursed to them about God realization, divine bliss, and obedience to the Master. He emphasized to them, under any and all circumstances, through thick and thin, don't let go of Merwan's feet. The next morning, Maharaj served them tea and bread near the temple. He would approach each one individually, serving them several times until they were full. After the repast, the Mandali saluted Maharaj and Durgabai, then left for Bombay. Meher Baba's standing instruction to Adi Rani, Ghani, and Ramju was that when they were free, they would have to sit near him in the prescribed manner. Adi on his right, Ghani in front of him, and Ramju to his left. They found this order very difficult and inconvenient to implement because, aside from when he was in the manzil, they had to sit like this while traveling with him as well. Even when Baba was in the toilet room, Adi had to occupy the right stall and Ramju the left one as Ghani stood in front. Oh. Occasionally, they would take a different seat when permitted, but without his consent, they could not do so. They had to wait till all those room stalls were free then. Okay, what was more alarming was that at any time, Baba would suddenly ask them what they were thinking, and they were required to admit their dreadful thoughts. Once a week, people would come in for darshan, and very often this included attractive young ladies. One day, a beautiful young woman came and bowed down to the master. Adi was standing on Baba's right and admiring the girl's beauty. She was probably... Anyway. Bowing. Okay. He had sexual thoughts, and Baba turned to him and said, "What are you thinking?"
Oh no! Poor Adi.
Nothing, said Adi.
Nothing. Like Babaji would say, nothing, Baba.
This probing went on for days, and each time Adi would reply, "Nothing." Ghani was also not free from such undesirable thoughts. Once Baba took them both aside and said, "Do you think I'm a fool? Do you think I don't know what you are thinking?
My God.
I know everything. I know what you thought yesterday, I know what you are thinking today, and I know what you will think tomorrow. Past, present, and future are open books to me." So there's no freedom of thought then if he knows what everybody's thinking.
Exactly.
He then startled both by narrating some intimate incidents in their lives that had occurred before they met him, revealing the dates, locations, and circumstances, information only they could have known. Who was this? Adi and, I don't know, Adi and Ghani or something.
Talk about it. Tough.
Okay.
Tough group.
Both were dumbfounded as how the master could know these details, and they began to weep. "Don't tell me lies. You two have been lying to me for days," said Baba. Adi blurted out, "Then don't ask us such embarrassing questions in front of others." "Nothing of the sort," Baba demanded. "I will ask you whatever and whenever I like. You must obey me." And Baba did continue to probe them often, and they would openly confess their... Adi was going to college during the day, and Baba had instructed him to keep notes of all his thoughts during the 6 miles train journey to and from school. Adi therefore had to be careful of what he thought, for when Baba would read his notes, he would... Boy, that's...
You know what that reminds me of?
He would comment let me finish the sentence. Comment in a poignant manner. "Don't you have any better things to think about than this?" Thus, Adi kept his mind preoccupied with thoughts of God even when out of Baba's presence.
Well, I don't know if I heard this in some discipline or some spiritual master. I forgot where it was. The aspirant had to recall his whole waking hours, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, eventually weeks. He'd have to be able to recite to the master what he did for 7 days, every moment of his waking time.
How could he do it?
You became super conscious eventually. Because you became meditation. And eventually, this person, was it Pythagoras? I think this was Pythagoras. Remember the great Greek father of mathematics, geometry?
Yeah.
But I think it was he who, to pass his final test, he had to recall his entire lifetime of his discipleship with his master, which was 30-some years. He had to recite all 30 years.
But it would take you 30 years to recite.
I mean, but basically he was that totally focused, and his whole life was nothing but the master. Because see what happened by remembering the master, 1 day blended into 30 years.
Right.
You follow me?
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah, you see what I mean? It became just, that was all there was.
Right.
So it could easily be recalled.
Right.
Because you basically took everything out of it and just had him.
Yeah.
So I mean, it sounds
Like
hard.
a living God, the
Anyway.
4 days.
But the way it works a little basically is like, like a laser light, like in a CD player. A laser can read any track on a CD or whichever way.
Right.
You can jump from the first track to the 11th track by just pushing a button. Thus, when a master is enlightened, he's light, and light can read anything it puts its focus on.
Right.
Therefore,
That's a good description.
it can read forward, backwards into your life.
That's
Not
a
just this
beautiful
life.
description.
That's what I'm just saying.
I love that.
So I'm bringing it to your
without
mind.
the limitation of the laser.
Right, without the limit. If he's all light, he can read your mind even now as you're sitting. He knows what you're thinking. The master is your higher self. And he can read all your past life. You cannot because you're limited by your thoughts.
You know, that really answers the question if you asked in a logical manner, how can a master read my mind? Because all he does
He's
is...
beyond your mind.
No, but he's beyond your mind, but he sees whatever Akashic records you have, and he could just, like the laser, just focus
Because
and read it all.
All your thoughts are recorded into your brain and memory.
Mental body.
But
And you can read your memory is nothing more than a recording. That's what that is.
Right.
That's being read electronically, but a laser beam is what they use in CD recordings.
I read too anything.
To your mind and know what you're thinking at any moment. Any moment means past, present, or future.
Oh my God.
So if you're thinking thoughts contrary to that, he knows.
Yeah, but Baba's God. It's just I just think to myself, that I guess I probably will never get a master, except, it just doesn't appeal to me. I mean, because it's Baba, it's different.
Yeah.
Christ is one thing. I guess I used to like what Mani said. She says,
Baba is
Baba
the
gives,
master. What do you need a
Baba
master
gives us
for?
the highest authority, but Baba's Christ. So, it's, I don't know. It's just different to me. It's not my, But Mani used to say, Baba gives us the highest authority. He gives us the authority to love him. I just love that somehow.
No, but this is just an unbelievable discipline he gave
To me,
to.
Baba is more than Jesus, more than Muhammad, more than Moses, more than anything. Sometimes beyond my Allah. You know what I mean?
Well, the key.
Sometimes happens.
As you said, Kathy, it is so true what you're saying.
Yeah.
But it is a thing that you have to. It's yours.
Yeah.
In other words, to put it into words.
Right.
It then loses its strength because it then can be interpreted by each person's mind.
right.
I mean, we are all with you.
You're right.
We are all with you and
It
feel
doesn't
it
really
here.
lose anything, but we bend it.
Yeah.
See, I bend it, and it's not the same as what's coming
Yeah,
from
but
your
it's
heart.
beautiful to hear it from you in our circle here.
Right.
But if we said this like outside, I tell you, lately I've been on the internet and I go into these chat rooms and I talk about Baba and I catch so much flack.
I have something.
And what happens to my heart, I get hurt.
You cannot
And
do
so,
that.
and what I do then is I just sign off really sweetly. I just say, well, I think it's time for me to turn in. I'm getting tired. But the point of it is, so many people have so
They're
much.
blind.
No, but their minds are
asleep.
going so rapid, and they want to be shown things. They want to be explained things. Like I said, I started a conversation on the metaphysical net the other night. Hi, do you want to talk about the 7 planes? And the guy says, yes, I want to talk about Boeing 747s, DC-8s. I mean, he knew what I was talking about, but they start joking with you, So I really seriously explained first plane, second, third, so forth. And then the girl says, that's your opinion. I have mine. And so right away I says, what am I doing?
Tell them go sleep.
No, but I said to myself, what am I doing this for? So I just said, excuse me, good night. But anyway.
You're trying
But
to
Baba
approach
says
it
that too, though,
with
Fred.
the intellect.
Yeah.
and
He
that's
says,
not-
that when you talk about those higher experiences with people, he says they're going to doubt them. It's in the discourses.
He said what? He said what?
He says that the people are going to doubt your
that's
deeper
very
experiences
true.
with God.
Very
It's in
true.
the discourses.
The only place that
Where is
Baba,
it at, Kennedy?
Oh,
the only place that
it's
Baba,
very easy to find, though. Probably in the occult.
Suhas.
It's not that hard to find.
No, you're...
only
finish with the
place
book.
that Baba speaks to you is in your heart,
Right.
not to your mind. So you
Right.
cannot read
That's
this
the
thing
problem.
and try to discuss it or doubt it. If you
Right.
don't believe in your heart, Baba's not going to speak to you.
He actually
audibly.
speaks to the heart and the mind, I think.
Well,
He speaks to the heart and through the
That's his
heart to
word.
the mind.
Right, yeah.
Well, these
Yeah,
meetings,
that's true.
Oh, through the
I'll
heart,
tell you,
woman, yeah.
these Lord Mayor meetings
Not
on
from the
Wednesday
mind
nights,
to the heart.
Oh, you're right.
these meetings on Wednesday nights have really fostered my heart chakra, or what do you want to call it, my center, because I look forward to these meetings in a way that is with enthusiasm and with the longing to be together, to read about him, read about his life, and look at these incidents like. Would you think of an incident like this?
Small things, makes
right.
it big.
Reference. You would never think of this incident, the discipline he's putting through Adi, remember me, what he said, when you're driving on the bus, don't even look at billboards, don't even keep thinking of me, and what is it? Don't, because I'm going to ask you to keep note to me, and then he's going to ask for a report.
Right.
Automatically, Adi stopped thinking about other things and
Right.
started thinking
Exactly.
about God
Exactly.
and his master. And that was a way of bringing him.
When you think about it.
Focus only on God.
And not only that, we can use it today for the very same reason.
Exactly.
Yeah. First you laugh,
It's
what's
a
that?
timeless thing,
When
yeah.
the second word comes, wow.
Anyway, thank you very much, brothers and sisters.
Jai
We'll
Baba,
see
thank
you
you.
next
You
Wednesday.
continue.
You know, it's getting late anyway.
No,
Yeah.
it's
So cold, and I get up early.
Avta Meher Baba Ki Jai. Avta Meher Baba Ki Jai. Avta Meher Baba Ki Jai. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Okay, here we are. It's October the 2nd, 1996. We're in Los Angeles at the Avatar Meher Baba Center. We're reading from Bal Kalchuri's great epic work, the life story of the biography. I should say it is the biography of the Avatar of the Age Meher Baba. We're in Lord Meher. It's Volume 2. The years covered 1922 to 1925. We're going to pick up at page 396, and this describes Baba's first few months of establishing Manzili-i-Mim in Bombay with his first young disciples. And it begins with an episode. Okay. Due to his meager diet and prolonged fasting while staying in the manzil, Meher Baba was very thin. Although frail in appearance, he claimed to have the physical strength of a lion, and one day he demonstrated his strength to Adi. He told Adi to wrestle with him with all his might. Taken aback, Adi did not know quite what to do, but began lightly grappling with Baba, who said, "No, as hard as you can." Baba looked so frail that Adi did not wish to hurt him, but he had to obey and exerted his full strength against Baba. He was therefore greatly startled when Baba, without much effort, picked him up and threw him on the floor. On another occasion, to convince them that he had superhuman strength, he once challenged all the Mandali to a tug-of-war contest. Even 40 of the men, using all their strength, could not budge him an inch. Meher Baba had inherited certain characteristics from each of his 5 masters. It is known that Harzat Babajan, Tajuddin Baba, and Sai Baba would at times slap people or use abusive language if someone displeased them or displayed arrogance. Those were Meher Baba's masters that brought him down, teaching him. Narayan Maharaj had a high-pitched, squeaking voice and was as meek as a child. Narayan had a gentle or a Jamali personality, and it was rare if he abused anyone in front of others. Although Upasni Maharaj could oftentimes appear meek and humble, his foremost characteristic was Jalali, meaning divinely glorious and awe-inspiring, and his beating of disciples was frequent. Such a beating was considered a true blessing. From the time Meher Baba began staying in Manzili-Mim, he would sometimes exhibit this Jalali trait, a fiery or violent mood. It is said without exaggeration that he was fire. At such times every man would be terrified of him, and it was difficult to remain in his presence. Some would even run away and hide in their rooms. When in that Jalali mood, Meher Baba's voice would roar, and he would pick up and throw anything at anyone nearby. But this fiery mood would always subside as swiftly as it flamed.
I used to be afraid of Muhammad. There's a must. Jamie is new. This is all new to her, but there's a must is a God-intoxicated person. They catch the sight of God and they can't function. I mean, and Baba loved them because they're on. I mean, you have to feed them. I mean, they may live in a latrine or they don't have worldly consciousness. They might stay in the same position for days.
Sounds like me.
But anyway, I used to be afraid of Muhammad and Mas because I thought, what if he wants to bless me and I'm not ready for a blessing? You know, I used to be afraid that he might. I mean, what if he rubs shit in my face or something like that? I didn't even think of a beating in my mind. I thought that would I know it, but I don't
Well,
want...
you see what the funny thing about it is in the contemporary mind and contemporary society, if you brought these things up about a master's working, people would not understand because, these are bona fide masters. These are not people that are just pseudo... Anyway, continuing. According to Meher Baba's order, Gani, Ramju, and Adi were always sitting beside him. On August 11th, Bapu Brahman came from Pune to the manzil. In the course of the conversation, Bapu said something which so displeased the master that he suddenly grabbed him by the neck and lifted him off his feet. Bapu was a stout man of 200 pounds and resisted Baba. But Baba kept a hold of Bapu and shoved him down the stairs as if he were a weakling. Wow.
Remember the song that Ward Parks wrote about getting shoved down the stairs? This is the inspiration.
Adi, Gani, and Ramju leapt up and followed Baba down the stairs, thinking he might decide to stay there. But he suddenly turned around and found Ramju obstructing his way. Instantly he became annoyed and slapped Ramju so soundly that he was utterly dazed. Shortly thereafter, Baba was his genial self again. He began speaking cordially, patting the men on the back as he talked, while Ramju recovered from the blow. Once, when the master was in an extremely open mood, Sarosh asked him, "Why do you sometimes get so angry with us?" This is heavy now. Meher Baba replied,
Finally they ask.
"I am never violent or angry. For me, anger, pride, lust, happiness, or misery do not exist. Nothing like that exists for me. But when I appear angry at someone, it is his anger that expresses itself through me. I am the medium through which both your good and bad show themselves. You see your own face reflected in the mirror. Whatever you look like, this is what you see in the mirror. The image is not only there in the mirror, but in the face itself. The image is unchanging. If the face is not good, can it appear differently in the mirror? What you see in the mirror is your exact likeness. It is not the likeness of the mirror. A ball thrown against a wall rebounds to you with the same force with which you throw it. The wall is always at a standstill, absolutely stationary. You receive whatever resulting force you use in throwing the ball against the wall. In conclusion, however, I appear to you. It is only your own reflected image. I am always still and unchangeable, like the wall or the mirror. During August of 1922, Neval Tolati, who had met Meher Baba at Sikori, began visiting Manzali Mim every day. He would spend the day there under the master's supervision and return home in the evenings. One day Naval brought his friend, a famous cricketer named Hormusaji Jahangir Valjafridi, Valjifdar, to meet Baba. Valjifdar was 29 years old and a renowned athlete. Soon after, he became a devoted follower and likewise began coming to the manzil every day. He would bring fresh bread early each morning for the mandalis and Baba's breakfast. Nawab Jafar Vajifdar were soon considered members of Meher Baba's circle, although they did not stay there during the nights. Both men strictly adhered to all orders and instructions given by the master. Rosalie, you want to take it? Good luck.
From childhood, Merwan had a passion for sports and games, so the new member, Vajifdar, in his circle was an added joy. For recreation in the early morning, the master would sometimes play gilli danda or cricket with the men, or go for a long walk. Once he went out to watch a local cricket match in which Vajifdar was to play. But Vajifdar had a high fever and the doctor advised him not to play. Yet he accompanied Baba and the group to watch the match. At one point in the match, Vajifdar's team was at the point of defeat when, taking Baba's permission, he entered the game. He played so well, despite his ill condition, that not only did he score many runs, but his team won, as Baba and the Mandali cheered from the sidelines. The next day, Baba played a game of Gilli Danda with the Mandali on the same field. Meher Baba had permitted all the Mandali to observe their respective religious holidays. On their particular festival days, the Muslims would go to the mosque, the Hindus to the temple, and the Iranis and Parsis to the Agyari fire temple. If someone would forget a holiday, the master would remind him in such a way that in his heart he would actually wish to be free of this religious fetter. Ritual and tradition were found to be binding. For example, as the master would be about to divulge an esoteric point, give a spiritual discourse, or participate in a fun game of cricket in the backyard, he would turn to someone and say, "Isn't today a festival for you? You had better leave to pray. It is not good to neglect your religion." In this subtle way, the master was breaking their attachment to the old customs and religious traditions in order that they, themselves, would wish to renounce these rituals and ceremonies for the much more beneficial opportunity of being in the master's company. Although the master had explained to some extent about karma and reincarnation and the cycle of births and deaths in the process of attaining realization, the birthday of each Mandali member was celebrated at the manzil like a holiday, but overindulgence and too much festivity was discouraged. So here they all are. Jamie, this is what they look like in the early days. Yeah, quite a crew, incredible. Yeah, and Baba's in the middle here. And he was named, he got his name Meher Baba from one of his disciples, and it means compassionate father. Yeah. Meher Baba was some of his first disciples. There's no book way over there? No.
No, I am listening just.
Oh, I thought you might want to see him though. Because it's incredible, like this picture of Adi. Yeah. Ooh.
Thank you.
Wow. And but Sidhu's not in here, is he? Sidhu must have been later, huh? Yeah. Yeah. Shri Baba. Meher Baba emphasized and showed that spirituality was not just discourses, devotional music, or darshans. At certain times, the master would express perfect humility. He would gather beggars or the poor from the streets of them. Like a lowly sweeper, he often cleaned the sewer gutters around the bungalow. During this period, Meher Baba first mentioned the Islamic state of God intoxication. He explained what musts were and what these God-intoxicated persons meant to him. The first must to come around the manzil was a Mohammedan who Meher Baba would feed by hand, putting the food slowly in his mouth. Gradually, other such God-intoxicated persons who roamed the streets of Bombay would also visit and always be welcomed at the manzil. Jamie, this when the God-man puts food, it's like Christ at the Last Supper. He was giving them his love. Mm-hmm. So this is what he's doing with the must, because they're so on fire with God that he served them. And he was their servant because they were so in love with him.
So I mean, these God-mad people would come, be guided to the manzil on their own?
I don't know.
This was in the beginning.
It was probably unconscious.
In other words, there wasn't must hunts?
They weren't
Not
looking
right
for
at
them.
this point.
So these souls were just sort of
He came around, yeah.
meandered to the manzil.
Yeah.
They felt the vibe.
I think so.
And that's pretty.
They could have been
unique.
around in the city in different areas.
Different areas.
They would sleep under a tree or near a temple or a mosque.
Nobody's wondering how they just
Yeah,
wandered by to
because
the manzil.
this actually, in
It sounds
Baba's era, is the beginning then of his contact with the must, was at
Yeah.
Manzil Imim.
Naturally.
And I didn't know it was that early.
Wow.
I never knew that. I thought it was when he gave specific instructions on when we went on the tremendous trips
That
throughout
came-
India for years
That
and years.
came later, in
Uh-huh.
the 50s.
Yeah, but I'm saying
But they were
actually the
drawn to him
20s
right
is-
away, yeah.
So Hush, you grew up in that culture. Do musts look different, or they look like normal dope addicts, or they look all the same?
No, I mean, there's a difference.
You can tell.
Have you met a must?
I
mean, besides Muhammad. Have you met a street
I've
must?
seen people in India when I was very young, though, very little. They were in Belgaum, where I used to go for my summer vacation. There used to be this guy, you see, he was like a fakir, that's another word for a wandering person. He would just come walking down the road, and our house was pretty close to the edge of town. He'd come walking around the road, and he would sit under this tree, he'd start undressing, and he would just wash his clothes in a bucket, put them on again. He was totally oblivious to anything going around him.
Wow. And so you remember.
And I asked my uncles at the time, who's this person? And he said, well, he comes here periodically. He goes out into the jungles, and all of a sudden he'll come and he'll sit under the tree, and the people there will feed him. They'll give him food or something. And sometimes he'll get angry and he'll chase people away from him. Now, these people are trapped in a certain plane of existence. They could be anywhere from 1 to 6. And Baba made it a point to find these people and redirect them back onto the plains.
It's like they're stuck, isn't it?
Musts are people who are God intoxicated. They're totally intoxicated with their love for God, that it's almost like they're living in a state of bliss, but they're not aware of their surroundings. It's no different than we are intoxicated with whatever we are attached to. We are, in a sense, we are also a form of must in our own way, because we are caught up in whatever our life is revolving around. And we too have to, Baba also came for us, to extricate us from our environment and get back on track.
So in essence, we're probably more mad than these.
We are
these
mad
musts.
in our own sense, but we are not mad with God so
I know,
much.
we're mad over the solution.
It's a difference of degree.
Yeah, that's a great
Yes,
example.
I'm just saying in that same context, to give an analogy. Or you can say someone who gets drunk with alcohol or takes drug and is totally oblivious of his surroundings. There's a difference. He is intoxicated by us naturally because of his consciousness is focused on another plane, but he's caught in that plane and he doesn't know how to get out.
Well, you know,
That's where the master comes in.
we had these videos that Orion took of Muhammad the Must, and he was being interviewed, and he was putting on his underwear when he, that was it.
Well, we've seen films upstairs where they showed one film that when Adele showed us here where Baba went after some must, and some of them were just totally without clothes.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was Erwin Lux's film.
The Portofino film,
Yes.
and the must, the Urban Luck film, we saw it upstairs about a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
Or before the Savas
Right.
in July.
Yes.
I remember when
In
Urban
the field,
came
and the
down.
one's naked, and
When Baba would be standing and someone would be holding an umbrella, and he would coax the person out. See, Baitul was a very good must hunter. he would go and track them down, and Baba would go there, and then he would bring he would take care of them, he'd bathe them, because many of them just lived in their own filth. They hadn't taken a bath, none of that.
You know, it's amazing. A lot of them would not get disease, even though they would live in squalor and filth, and they would probably put all of us in the hospital.
And they would be totally oblivious to the heat or cold. They could live without a sweater or blanket, and they would be in biting cold in the morning, and they wouldn't freeze because they were focused somewhere else.
It is amazing.
And some of them get angry, and some of them, Jamali and Jalali, the fiery must, they get angry at people, and they chase them away, and there are other people who will just sit there and they'll cry.
But they look different than the normal people that live on the street.
Normal in the sense that they're not dressed properly, in the sense that they're totally unconcerned, they're unkempt, they're disheveled.
My understanding is when Baba did the must tours, he actually had certain ones that he would travel like a couple hundred miles to locate. So we're going to go 250 miles to see this guy.
He would pinpoint somebody he's going to visit.
A couple of people would find them for him in advance, and then Baba would, when they located where he was, because a lot of they're living in obscurity. And then Baba would make sure that they were well taken care of. He would either give money to somebody at a tea shop or a little restaurant, and he'd say, you know, I'll give you some money and you take care of this person, meaning he would clean him up and show him his love, and then make sure he was taken care of by somebody in that town.
Did Baba ever say about the past life of a must? I mean, is a person a must many lifetimes, or would they go from a seeker, a person on fire for burning desire for God, and in a given lifetime then they're born a must because their fire to love God is so strong that they're born a must. In other words, they're not an ordinary balanced human being. Their love for God is so one-sided that they're gone. You know, and so what do you think?
They're on another side.
But I'm saying it must come from. I mean, do you become a must in one life or several lives? Or?
It's all progression from being reincarnated so many times. We are in
Does
the process.
everyone become that, do you think?
No. Well, I don't think
I
so.
think the path to being a must is very rare.
I think
it's
think so?
Not
I think most
everybody
You
people.
don't think every spirit attains it?
I don't think so.
Not must. In the West, we call it mental insanity.
Except they are not mad in the normal, in the sense.
A lot of these
here.
musts would probably be put in an institution if they were in America, because they do not appear to be normal.
They're not part of
Yeah,
society.
I've noticed that a lot of Hare Krishnas are like that. They're just like renounce everything and give up your human potential and praise
Except
praise
they're
Krishna.
doing that under, but they're not musts.
These are very inward.
They are totally in that state without having to do all that chanting and all that. They may be uttering that.
Actually, a must would look more like a homeless person that you're seeing wandering the streets in dirty, caked-on clothes.
Except,
but
You
in
start stripping on Santa Monica.
Yeah, in India.
Consciousness focused
But
on
his consciousness, instead of being on the gross, is totally in the blissful state. Must actually are just so beautiful souls. If you come around a real must, if you looked into his eyes, man, they're on fire with love, and they don't want nothing usually.
He's not wandering around begging like a beggar. There are many people who dress disheveled like a homeless person who would go around begging for money. He doesn't care. He's just totally oblivious.
And people take care of him.
Living totally.
God, it's like God takes care of him because he's helpless in his love. You know.
There was one must in India who lived in one spot for 35 years and had a tree that was growing next to him. Roots sprouted up through the ground, grew over his legs into the ground. He was basically pinned by the roots of the tree. He lived there for 35 years. Baba came to make a contact with him, had the wood sewn, lifted him up, cleansed his body, put on new cottons. He died the next day. But Baba had to make this contact with him. Baba was like the physician. See, if you had a person in an insane asylum and nobody knew where this person was at, but the master physician could come and say, I know where this guy's head's at. I'm going to talk to him. Baba would know where these guys, they'd be stationed on. In other words, most ordinary human beings are zero consciousness. There's 7 planes of consciousness. Maybe some are first, second. These must were second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 7 plane saints. Another word for must in some terms could be saints. They had the quality of saints in their consciousness, but being not balanced with their physical mind, they then exemplified these traits which appear to be mad. But there are saints who basically could be musts, but are balanced.
Yeah.
In other words, a consciousness of a person who achieved that bliss, but is not oversighted or one-sided with their consciousness, who have balanced their human personality. I'm not saying their spiritual consciousness isn't perfect. Probably spiritual consciousness is blissful, but their human personality was not, for some reason, balanced. And so they...
With their spirit.
Yeah, but their spiritual is good. But then there are saints who are both balanced in their personality and their spiritual. So there are advanced souls who don't have these must traits. And of course, but if... Like Rosalie has been in contact with Mohammed the Must, as most of us, we've met...
How do you spell that word?
What? M-A-S-T. It's like it's pronounced like mast. I thought it was mast at first.
Almost crazy shit.
But they call it must, M-A-S-T, but it's pronounced, it looks like mast.
It means the person who's intoxicated with the love of God, basically.
So he's taking care of this.
But Baba said there's a differentiation, though. Yeah. Didn't he say there was God mad and God intoxicated? There's a God mad consciousness, and then there's a God intoxicated consciousness. But are they both called musts?
Yes.
There's God mad must, and there's God intoxicated must. So God mad would be what? Jalali would be the mean one.
It could be, but I think I wanted to make a point here is the must period, the must state starts with the period of involution of the soul, because that's when you start going through the planes.
Okay, you come down, you go in evolution, reincarnation, evolution.
Our souls are in the process of reincarnation.
Right.
We have lived many lives, and we will keep reincarnating till we get fed up with this game.
Right.
When we get fed up with this game, the souls becoming disillusioned with our gross consciousness world starts going inward. That's when it starts focusing on God.
Father.
So that's where the must situation comes in. We are intoxicated with what we need to support our livelihood and so on. We are balanced for the gross world, but not so much in the spiritual. That's where devotion comes in. Love for God.
Yeah, they get stuck. I think I remember reading in the Wayfarers where Baba said
Wayfarers is the book.
Some of these people traverse the plains without the help of a master, and they get stuck.
I don't know if that's
and they can't go to the next step without the help.
This whole book is a context with must. The whole book was chronicled.
Fred, by the way, reach up and get Meher Sarod so we can do a fall.
Well, I don't...
Oh, is it one right in there?
There's a 3-page guzzle coming.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, I'm just looking at this picture of the early disciples and the Manzil Mim, and Baidu was there. And he was a must-hunter.
Jafrabadi.
Oh, Baidu was at
Baidu, yeah.
Was a great must hunter.
Thing is, Baba must have trained him.
Him and Vishnu used to go out. And
so Vishnu was one of his pillars. Where is Vishnu?
One of his early ones. Not all of them could be there. This was with some of his first disciples at college.
Yeah, I don't see him. Vishnu, one of his pillars.
And remember, this is the period when Baba was speaking. He hadn't taken his silence then.
Right.
This is in the Manzil Mim period. When he first started gathering his disciples, he was speaking. So anything that is said by him, the silence started July 10th, 1925. We're in the period of 1922-23. Baba was speaking, a beautiful voice.
But what you were asking, Jamie, is does everyone go, become a must? No, a lot of people are veiled, that they don't experience the planes.
Baba said that all of us are veiled. None of us know where we are, if we're anywhere at all. Most of us probably
But Baba says he's with you wherever you are, so it doesn't matter whether you want to be a master or you don't. You are who you are, and if you have love for Baba, you go right to Baba if you do his will. He's given his wish 5 points.
In other words, a must was almost compared by Baba like a moth seeking the light of the flame, and that he is so focused that if he sees the light, he doesn't care what's around him. He's going to that light.
I heard that a beautiful analogy about the moth to the flame, and that's what it is. The moth is trying to hit the lamp.
Right.
It's trying to get into the flame, and it bashes its head all night long, bloodied. The next night it comes again with more of its friends and keeps bashing till it enters the flame. One goes through the top of the covering of the lantern.
You could put that here if you want.
And in that instant, it's annihilated, becomes one with the flame.
You could put it here.
Yeah, be very careful with the drink. Because didn't you say a drink on the piano? I know, but Gus, I think Gus said a drink by Monty's picture there. I removed it, but you know, like I know we're in cramped quarters, but yeah, that was it.
Be careful.
But you know, watch where you set things. I mean, walk to the table because you know these are precious pictures and things. You know, just.
So anyway, we should begin again.
During this period, Meher Baba first mentioned the Islamic term must, the state of God intoxication. He explained what must were and what these God-intoxicated persons meant to him. The first must to come around the manzil was a Mohammedan who Meher Baba would feed by hand, putting the food slowly in his mouth. Gradually, other such God-intoxicated persons who roam the streets of Mumbai, they call it changed its name now, Bombay, would also visit and always be welcomed at the manzil. During the month of August, Baba often remarked that Upasni Maharaj would come to the manzil and give darshan, and that the mandali should be prepared for his arrival, although he never did show up. For relaxation, Baba would go to Munshi Rahim's house to play cards. Once, while playing cards at Munshi's, he quietly stole a card from Ramju, and as a result, his side won. In the middle of the next game, Ghani did likewise, but this time Ram came to Baba, who rebuked Ghani for cheating. Ghani for some time bitterly thought, Meher himself pilfers cards. One day a Sadguru, that means a perfect, someone that's one with God, Sadguru, went with some of his disciples to a city where he was known. He approached a candy shop and entering, put some sweets in his mouth. His disciples too mimicked him in this respect. He then visited a bakery, and there also the same thing happened. He picked up some cookies and put them into his mouth, and his disciples did the same. Then he went to a blacksmith's shop, where there were red-hot pieces of iron in the furnace. The master picked up one of the pieces and ate it. His disciples stared at him. The Sadguru then said, "Now eat this too." Not one dared move, and the master admonished, "Why do you do as I did? Are you parrots? Never do as I do, but do as I say." After hearing this tale, Ghani burst out laughing, and Baba asked the reason. He replied, "I bow down to your knowledge. You have answered my question superbly." Ghani was very bright. He was very clever. I'll show you what he looked like. He had this large, look at his head, his forehead, just like.
He was a doctor.
And he was a lifetime friend. I mean, he knew Baba from school, so sometimes he'd get to the point of taking him for granted, and Baba would have to alert him.
Which one is Gani?
Gani, with the big forehead, the very big forehead.
Seen that.
Once if Gani, he was a schoolmate, and he didn't understand Baba after he went through his transition. So Baba joked with him for a while and made him understand.
The poetry writing continued, and sometimes Baba himself would dictate one line or couplet and ask the mandali to compose a poem from it. Once he gave the first two-line couplet to Gani, who wrote the following ghazal in Urdu. I love these ghazals. This is one of Baba's disciples. They call him Mandali Adi Kearani. We'd have these talks about God Speaks. Baba dictated that book, God Speaks. It's about the entire scheme of creation and how people realize God, and it's very complete. And anyway, Adi was brilliant and knew Baba's teaching so well, and such a beautiful soul. Anyway, he'd give these talks on Friday in India, God Speaks talks. And my favorite part of the talks was not about God Speaks, because it almost seemed like science to me, you know. At the end of God Speaks is a little paragraph, conclusion, that the book is for the intellectual convulsions of the mind, that God can only be experienced. So anyway, that's all I needed to read, and you know. Anyway, but it's a wonderful thing to read, on the other hand, but I just haven't. Anyway, Adi would say these in the original languages with such force, it could just knock you off your chair. He was a singer. He used to sing these actually before he had heart trouble, and then he didn't. For the lover who dances to the master's tune, where is the question of justice? The breeze of your lane is not found even in heaven. The fragrance of the best of musk is unequal to it. Oh, beloved, my trapped heart is now at your feet. It is up to you to manifest your godhood through it or not. If he is said to be absolutely independent, does he care if the one at his door accepts him or not? My bowed head is... But I don't know whether he will murder me today or not. And that's like the expression that kill his ego.
Yeah.
And then he realizes God. Why is your attitude different than what it was before? There is some secret behind it, whether my heart understands it or not. Oh, there's a footnote. In the poem, the beloved's actions have charmed us to such a degree, whether he acts cruel or kind, we don't care. We accept whatever the beloved does as the highest benefit to all concerned.
It is similar to the couplet that Baba had when he dropped his body.
Yeah.
What they say about the master, never say it is wrong because it is your fault in not understanding what he says.
Yeah. The Muslim named Ahmed Abbas was reared in Pune. Ahmed became acquainted with Merwan, that's Meher Baba before his name changed, during 1914, soon after Baba Jan had given him God realization. It was she was very old. She was like 120, or they didn't know exactly how old she was. And she kissed him on the forehead, and it lifted the veil. And then he knew who he was. So in a way, you think, well, even God has to go through puberty. You know, it's kind of like, then he knows who he is. So I mean, where am I? Oh, but it was only later, when Merwan had the toddy shop in Kasba Pet, that Ahmed began following him as Meher Baba. Ahmed was with the group on the foot journey from Pune and was now living at Manzili Mim, writing Upasni Maharaj's biography in Urdu. He was fond of spiritual literature and also of Persian ghazals and Qawwali songs. He was a poet of some repute, writing under the pseudonym of Kak, which means dust or ash. During this period, he acquired the new name of Kak Sahib and wrote the following ghazal dedicated to Meher Baba. Is he in that picture? Kak Sahib. Kak Sahib. No. Yeah, a lot of people. Let's see whether I am able to reach your doorstep. Let's see whether I can make my home there or not. Ages of suffering cannot open the heart's portal to you. My destiny is in your hands, whether I gain heaven or not. I am forced to dance to your tune by the breeze in your lane. Its perfume absorbs the stink I have collected over lifetimes. I have no concern with the world. I am ruined in your name. I am your slave, whether I gain godhood or not. Oh, beloved, why do you shower affection on indifferent strangers? Just look at my heart, which is yours no matter how you behave. My heart, body, mind, and soul are drowned in your intoxication, but I doubt whether the sheikh has any feelings for you. When I joined your court, you never asked about me. Has someone now poisoned your ear against me? Whomever I meet sings the praises of your divinity. But internally, what silent strength I have gained no one knows. This dust of Kak, which is ash, longs to see the sun. You've turned it into the dust of your feet and made it wine. The company of Meher contains this treasure, whether one has yet discovered it or not. One night, alone in his room, Meher Baba composed this Zarathustra. That's also a coming of Christ, Zoroaster or Zarathustra, which was read to the men at Manzili Mim, entitled The Horizon of Love. It is a splendor of God that exists in nature's four elements, earth, air, water, and fire. You are the master and lord of the two worlds, material and spiritual. The light of your existence is concealed in every atom. The lamp keeps itself burning with the love of God. The death of the moth is destined in the eye of the flame. While the nightingale, deeply in love, risks its life in pursuit of the rose blossoms every morning, remembering God. Love exists in everything and in every being. Praise be to love that pervades every home and heart. Religion and the world know not what pure love is. The beloved's face is always present before my eyes. Love is beyond riches, power, intellect, and conscious effort. A king and a beggar are equal in the realm of love. Divine love is not easy for every man to pursue. It is a difficult commodity to purchase in the market of love. Poverty, helplessness, ruination, and oppression are the companions of the true lover of God. Servitude and slavery, insults and infamy, millions of such trials lay on the path of love. Holy Zarathustra, how much suffering he bore for the world. The Savior's end came by the stroke of an enemy's sword. Christ's hands and feet were nailed to the cross, while Mansur sacrificed his life from a hangman's noose. The foundation of Zoroastrianism was laid on love. The knot in their sacred thread represents love's eternal bond. The existence of truth was proved by Zarathustra through love. May truth prevail in the thought, word, and deed of all men. O Zarathustra, the Savior, bestow love on your adherents. This is my prayer in the kingdom of Ahura Mazda. That's the name of God. You want to go ahead?
Years before, during 1917, Merwan had sent a ghazal to Sohrab Desai of Navsari.
That's Mansari's relative.
Mansari Desai.
Yeah.
Sohrab, whose nom de plume was Soma Desai, was a well-known Gujarati scholar and the author of several books. Sohrab was so inspired by this particular ghazal that he would read it several times each day and ardently wished to meet its composer. But he did not have the slightest idea who had written it. He had never heard of any writer named Huma. Huma means the bird of paradise. What happened to the flower?
Oh, it's outside. The bird
The
of
ones
paradise.
that grow
yeah.
outside. Huma, the bird of paradise, the phoenix.
You know, I want to say this Sohrab, he's in the Nasik film. You'll see him because he's little and he stood up on something and he's giving a dissertation. He's waving his hands. And
He was the editor of a newspaper.
so, what was his relationship to Mansari? An uncle? That's her
I
uncle.
think he was her father.
Uncle.
Uncle of
Uncle,
her
I think,
uncle.
yeah.
Sorry, for his uncle.
Sorry. In Manzili
He looks
Meme,
like her.
the biography.
Doesn't he? Look at him.
Ah,
Oh, look at him. He looks just like her.
small too.
Yeah.
Oh my God, looks like her.
He
Exactly.
does look
Mansari's
just like her.
Father's brother.
Mansari's father's brother.
Mansari's father's brother.
Mansari's father's brother.
Looks like my son.
Doesn't have face? I mean, this is such a flash.
I wish to go India one day see them.
Huh?
Yeah, I wish to go India one day to see them.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah.
Same here.
In Manzili Meme, the biography of Upasni Maharaj was being written not only in Urdu but in Gujarati and Marathi as well. The Gujarati author was Bailey, and for the Marathi version, Upasni had dictated certain points to Sadashiv Patel, who turned over the material to a well-known Marathi writer, Nath Madhav. When Bailey had finished his Gujarati account, Meher Baba sent him and Rustam to Sohrab Desai in Navsari with the manuscript, requesting Sohrab to edit the work. Bailey and Rustam duly informed Sohrab that they had been sent by Meher Baba with the order that he should do the final editing of the manuscript. Sohrab was irritated at this and demanded, "Who is this Meher Baba to order me to edit this work? I am no one's servant. Besides, I have no time for such work. Tell Meher Baba I cannot help him." They tried their utmost to induce him to assist, but he was obstinate and returned the manuscript. Rustam and Bailey returned to Bombay and informed Baba. After a few days, Rustam was sent again with this message: "Sohrab, only you can do this work. It is Meher Baba's wish." When Rustam delivered these words to him at Navsari, Sohrab was all the more annoyed. He said, "Who does Meher Baba think he is? Tell him not to be so arrogant." Rustam did his best to elucidate about Meher Baba, but Sohrab refused to listen. On his return, Rustam narrated what had happened, and again Baba sent Bailey and Rustam with the manuscript and this third message. These manuscripts of Upasni Maharaj's biography are presented to you by Huma, which is Meher Baba's pen name. He wrote poetry under the name Huma. This work must be done by you. Baba had told them to leave the manuscript there and not to say anything else. When Sohrab saw Rustam and Bailey again at his doorstep, he shouted, "Why have you both come back to pester me?" But without giving him any further chance to protest, they delivered Baba's message, left the manuscript there, and soon departed for Bombay. They had no idea that for the past 5 years, Sohrab had longed to meet the poet Huma. Hearing the name Huma had a profound effect upon him, and he immediately calmed. He read the ghazal by Huma again. Tears came to his eyes, and he touched his forehead to the manuscript papers in reverence. Shortly thereafter, he wrote to Meher Baba, "Sir, please excuse me. I bow down to your order. You have stolen my heart long ago, but only today is the secret of your identity revealed. Your Leela is unique. I am yours, Sohrabji."
Ah, right.
Sohrab began editing the work, during the course of which he had various spiritual experiences. He would write to Meher Baba about some clarification in the manuscript, and no sooner had his letter been posted than Baba's letter containing the answer to his questions would arrive the very next day.
No, that very day.
That very day. Instant communication.
In other words, the letter was in the mail before he asked the questions.
Baba's letter was in
Baba's
the mail.
letter was in the mail.
But the answer was on the same day he wrote to Baba. The answer came in the mail before his letter got to Baba. It was all known.
Who travels fast?
Who needs the telephone?
Meher Baba would shave daily, but in 1922 he started letting his head cut. Normally he would wear only a cotton shirt, pants, and the Kamli woolen coat, the one that was given by that's in the museum.
Yeah.
Who gave it? I forget.
Yeshwant Rao, Upasni Maharaj's disciple. It was a parting gift when he left Sakori. Kamli woolen coat and a kerchief wrapped around his head. While going out in public, he would sometimes wear a Turkish fez. During this period, it was not permissible to touch his body unless he instructed. The master would not bathe himself. Adi and Ghani were ordered to bathe him. Adi would carry buckets of water up the stairs for his bath. Baba would sit in his underwear as they poured water over him and rubbed his body. They would then leave the room and he would change into clean clothes.
You know, in India, I noticed a lot of people bathe. Women bathe through their sari.
Yeah, I saw that too.
In other words, they won't go totally nude.
Yeah.
They bathe through their sari. Or a man would wash with his
Lungi. Lungi or lungi.
Yeah, lungi.
Lungi in the south.
Yeah, I guess it's the way of modesty.
Yes.
I wanted to say to you, Jamie, that why this is so precious to us, because we take Baba to be the Christ, and Christ comes to show us how to live. So it's an incredible opportunity for us, you know.
He seems abusive.
Well, yeah, you see, we don't understand. I mean, I'm the last person that is a masochist, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I never even liked vaccinations, but it's a certain point of consciousness. It's like if you were around his lovingness, you know, he actually was taking on their suffering.
And also
by
you have to
his
remember,
so-called
So
abusiveness.
you're saying that he was, so you're saying that whenever he was abusive, he was reflecting some negative feeling that they had within.
He was helping them to realize who they really are. But it's very special. I mean, I'm not into masters, but I take Baba to be the Christ. I was never looking for a master. But I'm raised Catholic, and I take him to be the Christ, and so he comes in human form to experience what we experience and to show us how to live a true life. But these are very personal things. I mean, you know, that's why I'm saying something now, because there's such things as like Jimmy Jones misleading, you know, and having them all drugged and died, whatever happened, you know, that Jim Jones, you know, and
I don't know who that is.
well, it was a big time news.
See, another thing is, this is an early part of Baba's disciples. I mean, Christ had the same thing when he first took his first disciples. He basically had to put them through, almost you could say, a training to be with him. So you're getting very intimate accounts of a period of his life here that is being candidly described openly.
But you see, she has a valid reaction.
No, she has a valid reaction, but you walked in at the time when we're just beginning this part of the story. There are other times in other volumes of the story, if we were reading to you certain parts, you'd say, wow, is that really loving and kind and so forth. But see, you're getting this part of the story which describes his first disciples in almost, you could say, a booth camp, like a military. To be one of his disciples, you had to give up everything. This isn't for everybody. This is not for us. This is for his chosen, the people, both men and women, that he brought into in his initial circle. And then you talk to these same people today who are in their 70s and 80s, and they wouldn't trade anything for anything. Because, sure, they've gone through a tremendous amount of suffering, but they also are by him much more than they could ever be taken care of by anybody in the world.
But you see, his disciples do not abuse. I mean, they don't hit. They don't.
No.
He had the authority because he's Christ, but they didn't. You know, they don't hit. I mean, it was only him, so it was very special. It was a blessing. But, you know, I don't take it as sadomasochism at all, but all of his disciples that I personally met, or that anyone here has met, are so loving and so individual. And they took his every order for 40 years, some of them, you know.
60 years.
Yes, 60 years.
So much love.
Now, they would be basket cases. You know, they would be like helpless, but he drew out truth in them. You know, so it's not, you know, but I could see it would be hard to walk in and go, wait a minute, you know.
A little bit of
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah.
the extent
I'm going to open a window.
to which this took place in that certain period of his life, I just became fully aware of tonight when I heard what you heard. I first heard about this Meher Baba in about 72 or early 73. And I knew about him hitting Audie, one time hitting him hard on the ear, but that's about all I knew. And so now I'm becoming acquainted with this particular aspect, but I don't think that that was real prevalent. And, well, what else did I want to say? It would be easy for me to say that on the surface, it looks like he was being abusive when actually something else far more profound was taking place between him and whoever he was appearing to abuse. And I could say that, but yet if I were to come to one of his disciples and that disciple was to hit me or something, I'd probably think, oh gosh, how dare him? How dare him do that to me? He was violent. I mean, you know, I might feel like that or I might not. It all depends.
It's like building up a callus. It always hurts before the callus.
But I haven't heard, as far as I know, of any of his disciples ever being abusive to anybody.
No.
It was only
Muhammad?
he, through his work, well, the must are abusive because of their consciousness being mad. But the thing is, you're getting some very privy stuff, as Chris said just now. I have to confess myself, I didn't know this part of the Manzali mean period either. A lot of us have these books.
Hey, I bet the Manzali didn't either.
A lot of us have these books, but we've never got into a deep openness discussion about it. or
What's the
so
purpose you gave
it's
them?
really sort of of uplifting or
When were these
information for us. Huh?
When was the purpose?
1978.
The original volume of the of this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
1978.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
So for an introduction.
Did it just get here or something? Because I've never seen it until the last couple of years.
These have been around a while.
Yeah.
Have they been in the United States?
Yeah, it's just they're hard to get because they're so
I've
expensive.
never even heard of them
So
until about
expensive.
2
They were
years ago.
originally written in 1970.
We never have been able to.
Well,
afford
I
those
say
the
there's
first
12
time.
other volumes that are not even written yet.
Dino
So actually, you have a very valid
this is
question.
stuff that
But
some of us
but it's like the way
Yeah.
of a God realized being is
5 hours straight. I just.
is very different than a normal
I got it
person,
for
an
$15
individual.
that
So
Bodhi used.
We cannot
Yeah,
judge
always
by our
check when you go back.
limited
Always,
awareness.
because I got a hard bound.
Well, we have to judge, don't we?
Yeah.
We're forced to
I
it.
did a letter.
And the reason for the Manzili meeting, this was a period where Baba gathered selected people that made a commitment to be with him. And what he was trying to do was kind of mold them, in a sense, for the rigorous life that they were going to lead in the future. It was like Fred said, a boot camp, but he wasn't violent towards the public in general. These were people that had gone to him in another town in about 120 miles in Pune by his aura, and they decided to stick with him through thick and thin. There was a contract of agreement that they had signed.
So it's kind of like a test of endurance
Exactly.
for
to a
his
degree,
disciples.
yes.
Yeah, but
test
you
of
can't.
endurance.
It can't be explained that way. I don't feel.
It's not a test of
because
endurance.
if I had come in, Baba says a person should always, it's very important to have discrimination on the path. You have to have discrimination, and you might say, okay, I don't like that. We're just trying to say, we can't explain that action, but we take him to be the Christ, and
Yeah.
but
that's a good way.
yeah, really,
It's a good way of
because
saying it. We can't really. All we can say was training.
yeah, we
It
can't
was
say
training
this
for
is.
his
feel
early
like-
disciples.
Do you
And
feel
so-
like one certain Christ has been manifested in different bodies?
Yeah.
Oh, he comes
Christ is a
periodically.
state.
Like he's the same
Christ
thing
is
as
God.
Jesus.
Yeah.
He's the same
Oh,
thing
yeah.
as Krishna.
That's how we
He's the
take it.
Mohammed
Yeah.
model, yeah.
He is the
They come in
same.
sequence, they're just like.
Just to different parts of the world, to teach
that's
different
a-
parts of
was
the
Well,
world.
they teach the whole world. People come from all over too. They draw however big the world is, and because Baba in communication, he flew around because this is the age of you could fly and go here and there.
Yeah.
But Mara, his closest disciple, she described him as that people would know that he was Christ because people would be drawn from all over the world to him. Because his teaching is universal,
Yeah.
And there's so many closed teachings. And he's come, like Baba said, he came to put, life into dried husk of religion. And to bring religions together like beads on one string. I mean, that's a
absolutely.
job right there and a half.
That is a
Yeah.
big job.
And nowadays, all these religious
Takes a
wars.
gunman to do something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Could it actually
This-
happen? Is a question.
At this time, all of this was localized. Baba hadn't traveled further than Bombay, Pune, and a few
These are early
small
days.
areas. We're talking about his very early formative years. And he was trying to establish a spiritual type of center, which comes later in Meherabad, when they've set foot there. I've read the book, so I know a little bit further.
And Suhas is from India, so he met Baba
And
when
I
he
was
was
born
a
in
young
Bombay,
boy.
where Manzili Meem.
You
I
met
was
him?
born. Yes, I did. Manzili Meem, where I was born, was only from here to the 10 freeway in walking distance. But I wasn't born at the time when all these events happened.
That is amazing.
So I'm very familiar with all these things that they're talking about. To me, it's like, it makes total sense. To you, you have to figure it out.
Yeah.
But When you have love for the master, it doesn't matter whether he's abusive or not. You accept him for what he is.
It's like an abusive relationship with the opposite sex.
That's not the same.
No, it's
No, that's what I mean as far as love is concerned. That's surrender, that's selflessness.
But I like when Rosalie summed it up earlier. She says, it is not for us to understand. We are not at that level to understand this aspect. This period of Baba's life and this interaction with his disciples and the abusiveness or whatever, the anger he exemplified. Because he even told them, he said, don't imitate me for the things I do.
Exactly.
I do them because I know I have a thing to do. And so basically what it is that, I mean, this is a part of Baba that we all really, none of us hardly even know about. And just opening this book up and reading it, a lot of us have never even read these pages before, so you're experiencing the same feelings almost that some of us are too. And so the thing is, but it's good because it shows you how you can't understand God or comprehend Him through your mind. And if you try to be logical about it, you can trap yourself into conclusions and judgments that...
Human beings, they have 6 senses, or 5 senses.
Exactly.
And beyond that, you don't know. You know, and if that's the way that he had to go to teach his disciples a certain way or path, you know, and if he's saying not to imitate him later, then...
Give us some discourses,
and then, and there's also tremendous situations where he showered them with so much love that they could, they were overwhelmed with it. So, I mean, you're seeing the initial stages of, I think this was the Manzo was a year, or not even a year old, when you were reading here. So as these people grow, it's almost like if you took a certain amount of people and you formed a kind of organization. At first you have strict discipline and orders, but eventually, it's sort of like the Marines, a good example. They shave your head. They take your so-called identity away from you.
They take your butt.
But all of a sudden you see, after a year or 2, 3 years, these guys are closer than anything because they've shared. I mean, it's sort of a far-out example. It's so totally different in the spiritual plane. But it's the same kind of understanding. But it's not for all. It's just the inner circle go through that. I mean, Baba, with anybody else in the public, was so courteous. And he'd go out of his way to have heads of state come and visit and so forth, and other people and government officials or even the poor people he'd go visit. He'd go to poor, he'd have mass blessings and have thousands of poor people that he would bow down to, give them foodstuffs, bathe lepers, wash the clothes of these musts. But anyway, those are other chapters in his epic life. So what we're reading now is a very, what's the word? Detailed and intense, and it's titillating to the mind because it gives you some wow type of a feeling. But anyway, it's great though that you're...
You see, Jamie, like for me, even sometimes, because I've been with Baba a long time. I mean, I saw his picture like in '67, and then, you know, I've learned so much with the mandali, all this incredible knowledge. We're given incredible knowledge. But, you know, one of the most important things you have is that, you know, your life, and Christ is your real life, you know. And, you know, you just have to go how you're inwardly drawn, and somehow you were drawn today. So, but I'm just, you know, because I thought, geez, what if I came in for the first time? And even now, certain people, you know, that I know that love Baba will be so much into a suffering thing, and I tell you, I'm raised Catholic, and I am not into a suffering thing. I mean, I saw that in the Catholic Church, and I thought, if there's joy, it's a different thing. You know, I mean, these people that were around this pure being, their real self, they didn't feel bad if he hit them. You know what I mean? I mean, they loved him, and they saw his incredible compassion and love, they saw how special he was. It's just not someone that, there's so much abuse in the world that it's just, so you've come in on a very pure thing, just to share that with you. Because, not to, it is what it is, but we don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying is the disciples don't do. They don't do that. Any that I've met.
You don't have to worry about just giving a hypothetical example.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't worry about anything. They're very gentle.
Incredibly gentle and
They're
loving.
getting up in age now too. There's only a few of them left. There's 4 men and 4 women left out of how many?
Oh, there were.
Yeah, I was
14.
drawn to this place a long time ago, like about a year ago.
Here
But
I
I
am.
never saw anyone, ever. Every time I passed, I looked in the windows.
It took me a long time.
Rosalie used to live upstairs.
I'm here, but I really should put a call for appointment.
Yeah, I'll call for. Yeah, I'll put a little sign on the door.
Yeah,
if not open, call for
People
appointment.
must be so curious. I've had a lot of friends go,
Have
what
they?
is that place?
Oh, really?
Yeah, you definitely need to access.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's
Public
good.
access show.
So maybe Baba. Well, he's on TV.
We
Fred does
I have a
it.
public access on Century Channel.
Yeah, really?
It's
Yeah.
on every.
That's bizarre.
It's on. I've been on since '86. It's on usually once a month. The next shows will be in October 26th. And
I have the list over there.
I have all these friends that.
Some Continental too is going to have it on.
Yeah.
Programs in November.
I have all these gypsy friends that live off stealing and whatever, And then I found this today. Whenever you gave it to me, and I just had to call him up and tell him that Baba said that.
What did he say? Which one?
About
Which
ways
one is-
of loving God.
No, say which one you want.
It says something like,
Rob yourself.
instead of robbing
Yeah.
others to help ourselves, we rob ourselves to help others. We are loving God.
All right, hey, that's nice.
I don't know.
And
This
what did
whole,
they say?
That stage.
How did they react to that?
Of course, they looked like God abused them.
Oh no.
Lots of love.
Well, that's great, though. I tell you what, though. See, well, that's such a beautiful thing because that basically exemplifies a knowledge found within a person, knowing that taking things, I mean, you're eventually going to leave this sphere. So what are you gaining? It's only a transitory pleasure that you're experiencing, So you have this. You could be dead tomorrow. So wouldn't it be better if you gave of yourself?
Yeah.
And then if you're gone tomorrow, hey, you left on a pretty nice note.
Yeah, I clash with some
Versus-
people because
so-
I believe more in servitude. I feel like you have this loving, nurturing energy for a reason, and you're supposed to give it to other people, and you're supposed to, reflect it onto the earth. But some people believe that you just keep that all to yourself, and then it works better. But I feel like the more you serve, the more you get back,
Boundless.
And that's, one of the things that I saw in this, and I was
Yeah.
interested.
That's beautiful.
I love that, how to love God. Yeah.
Well, and also, you got to love yourself before you can give that love to somebody. If you love yourself, you then can give it away.
Somebody said this, and in a way it makes sense to me. I think at some point I could particularly apply it to myself because I was so good at just being closed up. Love isn't put in your heart to stay. Love isn't love until you give it away.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
I like that. So where were we?
And the more you give it, the more you get.
The point of all enlightenment is not just for you, it's to be able to teach others. Everything you get, I feel like you're supposed to give.
It's cold.
That's why
somebody
Christ's life
should
is
close
so
the windows.
wonderful to study because
It's too
it's
cold,
so
Rosalie.
healing.
Rosalie,
Well,
somebody
close
got
it.
an earache.
It's okay, I'm fine here. I'm just fine.
Yeah, but lock the door. Lock the door. Somebody may push the door in your.
Well, that'll be very exciting then.
Oh, yeah.
You may get hurt there.
Ejected.
What big word?
Okay, where did we leave off?
Okay, we left off where he would change into clean clothes.
Please.
After the bath.
Mayor Baba started.
Mayor Baba started chewing pan and tobacco in Kasba Pet, and he chewed it excessively during his stay with Upasni Maharaj at Sakori. At Manzil Mim, he continued to chew it throughout the day. Although at times he looked weak and emaciated, his walk had a deer-like spring to it. So light and quick was his stride. His face glowed with an otherworldly expression, and his almond brown eyes had magnetic power. It is said that he inherited the eyes of Sai Baba, but they were different. They were filled with lights and power as the Sai's were, but they burned with compassion. His mercy and pity radiated out of the flames that touched the broken-spirited or broken-hearted. In a second, his eyes would reveal the story of every person who met him. And when his sight fell upon anyone, it would change the course of each toward God. His sweet smile in a moment, a person's lifetime, conveying the encouraging message that one should live life every moment with a happy smile. On September 10, 1922, a white pigeon flew into the manzil. The bird looked ill and exhausted, and when an attempt was made to catch it, it was easily trapped. The bird was taken to Baba, who lovingly held and caressed it. But it was so sick it was unable to walk. It was exceptionally beautiful, and Baba looked after it the whole night. The next day he told the men that despite his care, the pigeon had died. He had been up 3 times during the night to nurse it. He told all the men to come and see the bird, for it had died in a peculiar position, on its legs with its head bent, as if offering namaskar, salutations. Wow. Baba then posed this question to the mandali. Tell me how this pigeon suddenly happened to be here and then, just as suddenly, died. As no one could reply, he explained, do you remember some time ago when I told you that I would be receiving an important message from Baba Jan? This pigeon had come from her with that message. The importance of the message can well be imagined and gauged in that soon after delivering the heavy burden, the pigeon died. Thereafter, Baba himself dug a hole in the backyard of the manzil and buried the bird. The grave was made in the form of a small tomb which was covered with a green sheet according to Muslim burial rites, as flowers were strewn over it. He then wrote the following ghazal in Persian dedicated to this bird.
Wow.
Compassion to a bird. Rosalie, read the ghazal.
What was the ghazal?
Oh, pigeon, I accepted you as my honored guest because you had come from the emperor. But what a guest you were! By obeying the emperor's orders, you became the dust of his feet. No one knew from where you came or why, but your coming portends our departure. You came to annihilate your life of duality in illusion, and now you won't be born again, as if you had never suffered. What a message you brought from the emperor! The importance of it cost you your life. Oh God, what a wonderful game you are playing behind the veil. Though you are ever manifest, your game is a riddle to those who have eyes but are blind. Royal pigeon, you have become a saint. You now are buried at Manzili Mim, and Merwan kisses your feet in reverence.
Wow.
I was just connecting with one today. I was connecting with a pigeon earlier.
Oh, you did?
It was so great. Yeah.
That's interesting.
I was thinking maybe that he must have been a homeless man or something in his last life. And he was just looking for food on the ground. And I felt like I wish so much that I had food to give him today. He was so cute. I don't know.
That's sweet.
People hate pigeons, but I love them.
But
They're the cutest birds.
During the war, they were used to convey messages,
They were message carriers in ancient times. Yes, pigeons.
But the thing is, it's a common belief about reincarnation. I mean, and the people that don't know about it, that you could regress back, but you have to really have, like do so many drugs that you lose your willpower or something. Usually you don't regress back, but we come up, we go through all these states. I mean, they're in God Speaks. Or
Can you imagine if Baba wanted to write?
Baba explains, how we're created.